So this is all about the challenges that we've faced at IBM in integrating Acrolinx into marketing content management. So it's about three things: managing, mentoring, and measuring. So it's kind of a different take on Andrew's three, the ABCs. In managing, I include style, usage, terminology, that kind of stuff, the stuff that you have to set up your system with, the standards, governance, and workflow. And then in mentoring, it's all about the training and guidance and so forth. And then measuring is how you instrument your whole system to iterate. Okay, and then where do you start? And I really, oh, there's a little problem with my slide, but okay. It really doesn't matter. I think this chart is supposed to be saying that. Andrew is saying that we should start with measurement. I like the idea of starting with a baseline and just running it against with industry standard terminology and guidance, and then seeing where you are. And that's a good way that you can convince stakeholders that it's worth at least trying it. Now in IBM we do have an enterprise license, so that's not an issue, but certainly there are barriers to entry that are not dollars related. It's time and training and stuff. At IBM we started with mentoring, and I would not recommend that because well, so if you happen to get writers to accept and use the tool, and you don't have everything set up right in the first place, you get a lot of false flags and things, and then you generate a negative impression of the tool, and it becomes more difficult over time to bring them back into the fold. So we actually started with managing, or restarted the marketing with managing, and I'll tell a story at each of these stages. So first is style and usage. So our first attempt at getting marketing to adopt Acrolinx was actually in 2010. We had a small group of writers, an internal agency, if you will, that was writing a lot of our marketing content, and they just adopted it as it was instrumented for our tech docs organization. And the number of false flags was just too much for them. Things like contractions, which if you were participated in the workshop yesterday would have been a big deal. There are just a lot of these issues that writers dislike. And then the other thing is, marketing writers are a little different than tech doc writers. They have these notions that like creativity can't be automated and stuff, silly things like that. And so there's a negative response to it. So when we restarted the marketing attempt, which is more recently, we went to the owners of the new brand voice guidelines, and we ensured that they were bought into the process of creating a marketing style guide that was specific to their needs and to their their guidance, and then also including them in the process of with councils and things, so that if there are any changes in the style guide and whatever the management, they would be included. So that's a success story and something to take home. The second, so first of all, governance, and for us, governance is now this is sort of like if there was a word cloud for this event, governance would be the biggest word, which I would never have thought when I got here until today. But so first of all, a little quiz. How many people have duplicate content on their website? Okay. Oh, come on. Everybody, please. And then how about, are there valuable content opportunities that no one in your company is working on because maybe you don't know about them, or they're not federated out to the teams that might actually work on them? Yes? Everybody? Okay. And then also, is there internal competition for the limited time and attention of your audience in your teams for content? Is this something that, getting nods and yes. So these are the things that are really, when we try to sell governance, and governance is a hard word to sell into executive suites and things, we come with data about what, about these things. We show them the duplicate content. We show them the opportunities where our competitors are winning and we're not. We show them the places where we have multiple teams trying to engage with the same audiences, and they start to get it. And governance might seem fairly easy. This is a picture of Grand Central Station, something I walk through several times a week. And if you walk through it at rush hour, it looks much different than this. There are a lot more people. This must be like a weekend or something. But at a small scale, this is supposed to represent a small scale. Governance can be fairly easy. It can be fairly well managed with councils and boards that are run by humans. But every once in a while, you have one of these problems. And actually, this is sort of like representing IBM content. We have millions and millions of pages. We have millions of assets that go on those pages. We have lots and lots of activities. We have thousands of Acrolinx users. And in order to govern it in a sort of distributed way across with this kind of volume, we couldn't do it without Acrolinx. And then this chart, I promise, this is my only really complicated chart. So my title, like Chris said, is the Program Director for Content Platforms, Marketing Content Platforms. So this is our marketing content stack. This is a lot of different tools, and you can see really along the top is what we're trying to do for our customers in marketing. We're trying to attract them to our experiences. We're trying to engage with them. And ultimately, when they opt into our experiences, we're trying to nurture them to purchase. And along the bottom, that's sort of their journey. Outside of IBM.com, they explore, they discover our stuff in search and social and other places. Then they land on our experiences, and then they're sort of anonymous to us until they opt into our offers. And once they opt into our offers, then we can actually actively target them with content that would help them take the next steps in their journey. But it's the big green area in the middle between landing and opting in where we need Acrolinx. Because you have to instrument the content in a way that they'll be attracted to naturally, but that is built for their journeys, the stages in their journey, and is done in a way that is not intrusive. We're not pushing them through the funnel. We're attracting them through. We're giving them pull opportunities. I wanted to point out a few things about the green boxes before I move on. The first is that the top box there is our content optimization service, which is Acrolinx. And you'll see that there are green arrows everywhere in this whole green area, and that all of those green arrows are where Acrolinx plays a part in our content stack. So it's sort of the glue that binds all of these things together. We have a taxonomy management system, which is an open system that is connected to our keyword system, and we have a cognitive keyword classifier that basically takes all the keywords that our target audiences care about, and then it puts them into buckets by brand and business unit and so forth, so that we could govern keyword usage across all of our 5,000 products. And that is also part of the taxonomy management system. All that could, in theory, and we're actually working on this, be managed through Acrolinx. Like we can have tagging guidance and so forth in the sidebar, so that when people build content in Drupal or one of our other authoring environments, they get the tagging guidance. And really none of this works without good tagging. It has to be tagged by the author and the topic and the bicycle state and all of the things that will allow us to serve it in the relevant places in their journeys. The other things that I'm not going to spend too much more time, but the other things that are important in this chart are the content planning and campaign planning tools, which are kind of connected in the middle there. Content planning is Compost, and we have an Acrolinx integration to that. So when a content manager wants to order a piece of content for the agency to write, they can open a briefing tool, and in that brief, they put a whole bunch of information and some messaging. And Acrolinx is there to capture a lot of that information, so that when that brief gets sent to an agency writer and they open the brief to actually write the content that fulfills the need expressed by the brief, they have Acrolinx to guide them to actually fulfill that need. And then ultimately that gets into the campaign planning tool and out on the web. And all of that data has to pass into our analytics system so that everything is segmented for those audiences, for those campaigns, for those content efforts, so we can measure all of that, not just for content quality, which Acrolinx does natively, but for all of the things, the clicks and engagements and bounces and things that we measure with our analytics system. One final note to this is we are building out the largest implementation of Drupal on the planet, and Acrolinx is right there by our side to help us with various plugins. It's not just one plugin because Drupal's not one system, it's multiple systems. So we have like 3 Acrolinx plugins just for Drupal, but we'll have more as time goes on. And so that's a snapshot of the platforms that I manage. Okay, so the next step is mentoring, and this is one that, as a former teacher and a longtime editor of magazines and things before I came to IBM, is near and dear to my heart. I started using Acrolinx in 2008 as an editor of, they were ISV technical enablement people, and they wrote white papers and things for ISVs to help them integrate their software into our platforms. And at first, before I had Acrolinx, I would just tell them that I would edit their work, and I would tell them that these are spelling errors, or these are style issues, or these are all the things that Acrolinx checks for, and they wouldn't always believe me. But when we hooked up Acrolinx, they started not only believing me, the tool was telling it wasn't just me telling them, the tool was telling them, but also they started learning. They started growing. I could measure their work. I could show them that their improvements, and it kind of felt like if it wasn't for Acrolinx, I would not have been able to mentor them. So guidance is the thing. It makes editors' lives so much easier and so much more enjoyable. And then, of course, training. Guidance is part of the training. I don't think that you can train. I also have been editor-in-chief of IBM.com for a while, and the first thing I did was built a style guide and trained all of the writers in the organization on this. Went on a road show. And we measured compliance to the style, not using Acrolinx, but using another tool. And we got about 25% improvement based on just training alone. And then we hooked in Acrolinx, and then we started measuring, and we could get 50% improvement from the training, what I call training in context, which is basically they're writing, they're learning as they're writing, they're putting it into practice, and it's really it's changing the way that they do their jobs. And the third thing is content strategy. So this is a screenshot of Kapost, the gallery view. So yeah, one of our biggest challenges is that we have multiple content teams trying to write similar content or duplicative content, not really knowing what the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. So Kapost is a place where all of the different content teams can collaborate and build content collectively and choose to, like if somebody is already building something, then we'll just reuse that. We won't build that ourselves. And then with all the tagging and the guidance, a future view of this would have like the Acrolinx score for all of these things and other metrics associated with it. So when somebody wanted a piece of content that's available through the gallery view in Kapost, they could just pull that down rather than ordering a new piece. Okay, so measuring. So Andrew wanted me to start with measuring. I didn't start with measuring because I didn't want to redo my slide deck, but maybe I should have. Anyway. So these are the KPIs that marketers care about, and it's very difficult to manage to manage Acrolinx against these KPIs because we'll see in a minute. It's kind of like the slide that Andrew showed where he had correlation and not causation. But really, what you're trying to do is overlay your Acrolinx quality scores with these metrics. So for each piece of content, you want to be able to understand actually the KPIs, the number of visitors, the conversion rate, the leads, and all that, and then really overlay the Acrolinx quality metrics and see patterns where hopefully better quality tends to lead to higher KPIs for marketing. Wait. There we go. Okay. The other key to measurement is business segmentation. It's really one of the things about trying to do it out of the box is that it's difficult to understand who made what and who's responsible for what, and how do we measure one unit or one group or what we call diamond team, which is a team of marketers that work together to create content. How do we measure them against each other? How do they so that we can find the teams that need our help the most and so forth. So segmenting all of the teams in Acrolinx and matching that up to our analytics system and how those are, that's a really difficult task, but it's something that we've tackled pretty well. And we actually have a system now called Pearl. I don't have a screenshot of it, but it has all of our metrics for all the KPI, the marketing KPIs that we get with our core metric system, and all of the Acrolinx metrics federated into it for each unit, brand, product family, product, all the way down the line. So we can really drill into that and see not only who's doing well from a quality perspective, but from a performance perspective. Now, I swear I did not share this slide with Andrew before today, but this is basically we have the same point that correlation is not causation, and this is rock music quality versus oil production. But the point is the same, and he already made it, so I won't spend too much time on it. But I will say that there are ways that you can use, you can get beyond correlation. One way is to do A/B testing. So if you're basically just say, let's run Acrolinx against all the headlines for in like a blog site or something like that, and then let's just change. Let's keep a version with the original headlines up there, and let's put all the new and improved headlines on another version and measure the results. Then you can say that the new improved headlines actually raise the conversion rate or whatever your KPI is by a percentage, and that's causation. So I recommend getting over this hurdle with testing and with sort of taking an experimentation kind of approach to content. I know it might, like some executives might say, this is our content, this is our brand, how can you be experimenting with it? But it really is the only way to prove in many cases that your efforts are actually leading to business results. So that's one way. A second way is the old-fashioned way where you just put the two charts together by month and you show the correlation, and you do it over a long enough period of time where there's no seasonality and things. But usually, that's not really actionable because it's just too long of a time. So I would recommend the A/B testing model to get over causation versus correlation. So that's all I have. I did want to mention that I don't know even how much time I have. Okay, I have 3 minutes. That I wrote a couple of books. They're both in the domain of what I would call Andrew saying that content is about, at least the new way of doing content is about looking at the demand first and building for that rather than trying to build a huge supply and hoping that people actually develop a demand for it. The second one, outside-in marketing, is available, and I have a challenge. Whoever has the best question, and I guess I have maybe 3 questions, time for 3 questions. The best one of those will get a signed copy of this book. So I give you an incentive to ask questions. And nobody wants my book. Oh. Boy, so I would say that ours is much more. Yes. Yes. How would you compare our infrastructure model with Oracle's? Okay, so the main difference is that our infrastructure is heterogeneous. We basically take a best of breed approach. We take all of the best tools that we know. We do RFPs for each of the components in the stack. Let me put the stack up again just for reference. And then we tie it together using open APIs typically. And having one of the criteria for the RFP will always be how open is the system. For example, we have a new taxonomy management tool called Top Grade Edge, used to be called EVN, and it's entirely built on W3C standards. So everything can be passed in and out with RDF and OWL and all the different W3C standard technologies, and that allows us to flow the data throughout the whole system equally, or without any drops. And every single component in this has that sort of open standard model baked into it. Well, at least the ones that we buy from outside. But yeah, we didn't like build to suit like that. I mean, it's very impressive what Oracle did to build to suit entire infrastructure from the bottom up. We buy and we plug things back together. Yes. We have 14 business. Do you have multiple business units? Is the question? Yeah, we have 14 different business units covering hundreds of brands and product lines in, by the way, 140 countries or something like that. And I don't know how many languages, Mike? 55 languages. That's why we have 100 million pages, because everything is multiplied by 55. Yeah, it's a huge infrastructure. And actually, what I didn't mention is that we have been aggressively, with our Drupal implementation, reducing our content. And we used Acrolinx to really do that audit that Andrew recommends, and because they hadn't been measured before, and just purge everything that was low quality and redirect it to the new stuff. So we actually reduced our content footprint on IBM.com, or we're in the process of it, by 90%. So that's still a lot of pages, but it's not as many as it used to be. And Sabine, you had a question. Okay. Okay. We have Mike. Basically, he's the sole administrator. If he ever gets sick, we're really in trouble. Please stay healthy. We actually in reality it's governed by consent. So we have, for each unit and each major functional group, we have representatives on the Style Council. And then we have this huge terminology team it's actually 3 people. It used to be much bigger. Seems like huge compared to Mike. In Toronto, that manages our terminology and has like open APIs to everything. So we can pull our terminology in, and that's another big help for us. We tend to assume that Acrolinx is easy in some ways because we have all this stuff already made up for us, so that really helps. Sabine. By arrangement earlier, sorry. Yes. The question is, how did we determine what content was actually competing with what other content, what was duplicative and what wasn't, and did we use keywords to do that? And the answer is, yes, we did. So I have a keyword I built in the cognitive keyword classifier. I didn't build it. My genius ontologist, Dan Segal, built a keyword ontology that associated all of the keywords that we think our target audience cares about with brands by mining our, how many is it, 95 million tech doc IDs in DITA. And every time a product was mentioned, we looked for the keywords around it. And so in that way, using statistics and AI and machine learning, we were able to build an ontology that associated all those keywords with the brands that most naturally go with it. So then we could govern those keywords by brand and business unit. And then within those brands and business units, let's just take our systems group, which makes all of our power servers and our mainframe servers. They had, I think, like 1,400 U.S. Marketing pages for 3 products, and we were able to get that down to 30, I think, and because we looked at the keywords on all those pages, and we were able to say that, at least from Google's perspective, they're the same, or Google considered them functional equivalents. Google has an algorithm that, and this is another thing, I wrote a book on search, so I'm kind of an expert on SEO, but Google has an algorithm that's like 70% of the content on a page, and we're talking about the words, not just headings and things. If they're the same, it considers them functional duplicates, and so we use the same sort of approach that Google would use to determine those duplicates, and then we ran Acrolinx quality scores against the functional duplicates, and we took the one that had the highest score as the one that we wanted to keep, and move into Drupal for the migration, and then the rest of them we just redirected to the new page. Yeah, the question is that the most effective way? From my point of view, it is. I can't think of a better one. I mean, yeah, because for us, actually, for most of our, I think 70% of our visitors come from Google organic search, and maybe 15% from paid search, and then maybe we get some social visits and some banner visits, but like you get 70% of your traffic from organic search. So that's the best way to optimize your page for, at least for visits, or your whole experience for visits, is to optimize it for organic search. And that means really trying to match what you do to how Google sees your site. So that's basically the whole intelligence of our site is based on what we think Google's going to find most relevant to the target audience. Yes? That's an excellent question. How do you answer the ROI question when your executives ask you about it? Okay, so, and it's a difficult question. This actually chart makes some sense. So and you can see over on the right, there's, actually we don't have that part of the infrastructure. There's a whole other part of the infrastructure where we have leads, and the leads are, there's different qualities of leads, and the leads ultimately become wins and customers, and the customers, then that's our CRM system where we have money, and so the answer is actually not on this chart, but it's all about how many good quality leads do we get from the very beginning over here, where we have pages ranking in Google, Bing, Baidu, etc. We have videos in YouTube. And we can kind of track that, all that behavior all the way out to the end where it becomes a sale. And then you just walk back the dollars from that. So that's how we measure ROI. The hard part is associating the ROI to actual content quality. And because you have the correlation causation problem. Where's that? The third here, that one. And that, I can honestly say, I don't have a great answer for that. Other than in selective A/B testing, you can show that this really works. And then even for those, you can say that you have this much incremental revenue. And now just imagine, extrapolate that out over your whole environment. Yeah, it's a hard problem, but we're working on it. Okay, so I get to assign to give a book, and I'm sorry, Sabine. We had she said if she asked the best question, she would get the book, but I'll get you another copy. But actually, I think the best question was the guy who stumped me. What is your name? Yes. Paul Gustafson gets the book. I'll inscribe it. Okay, thank you.